The International Inn is back in business. Town officials want to hear from residents that have used the shooting range in the past. And one group hopes to move school start times for high school students. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Monday, September 21st, 2015. I'm Sarah Mannel. The International Inn passes recent health inspections after being closed for multiple critical health violations over the summer. The establishment was back before the licensing authority this morning. During the hearing, Donna Morandi with the Barnstable Division of Health gave the establishment a good report.
And much to my happiness, they've done a phenomenal turnaround. It's amazing. And I only hope that Roosevelt, the head chef there in the morning, will stay on and keep the place as sparkling as it is today. It's an amazing difference from what it was before to what it is now.
Excellent.
Attorney David Lawler, who represents the International Inn, thanked town employees for their cooperation.
First, I do want to thank Ms. Morandi and Mr. Scalia. The department, the town boards have spent a lot of time on my client's facility, inspecting, re-inspecting, advising. I know that they have dozens and dozens of restaurants that they have to deal with, and this has been an inordinate amount of time on this particular, but it's worked. My clients have spent quite a bit of money. They've hired new people, and they understand what responsibilities they have going forward, and I think that Ms. Morandi sums it up a lot better than I can. Mr. Scalia, with respect to the Board of Health, my understanding is that there was a 1 week, or it might have been 10 days, but we had closed down for 2 weeks from the food service to make sure everything was up and running.
Ultimately, the licensing authority voted to continue the show cause hearing until November. That will allow the health division to closely monitor the International Inn. The establishment will be allowed to serve food and beverages during that time period. Town officials hope to hear from former shooting range permit holders. Assistant Town Manager Mark Ells says the town will send out a survey to those individuals in the next few weeks.
The survey itself isn't to exclude anybody. It's to go back to the people who used to hold permits here and say, are you still interested in being a customer if we reopen a shooting range? This is a fee-based operation. We want to know who's coming back. At last count, total resident and non-resident, we had over 1,900 permit holders. But it's been over 2 years, and I'm sure if they're actively involved in this activity, then they've gone somewhere else at this point. So it's very important that we understand who's still interested, who will consider coming back, and then at what price range and for what product will you come back. And so we're reaching out to our past customers. That's not to exclude the more general questions that come with this issue to our residents. We're also in discussions about communicating with them as we progress on this, especially if we go from a fee-based to a tax-based supported program, which some of the environmental cleanup may have to be, whether the range opens or not. So that's something that we certainly want to be communicating with our residents. Number one, we don't want it to come as a surprise, and we also want to know that they understand it and the reasons why we may have to dedicate resources.
Ells says reopening the range is a complicated and time-consuming task.
The state of Massachusetts has stepped in and said you can't do a shooting range on conservation land, so you need to remove that from conservation land. So now the question becomes, it's not just the shooting range we have to remove the area that historically lead has been deposited on, primarily through shooting. Well, most of it's shotgun, but some rifle and pistol. And so now we've identified that area, which is different certainly than the shooting range, though the two do overlap. And then at what levels do we have to have a restricted area? So that we have to physically make that transfer of land. And you might say, well, just transfer all of it, but the state doesn't want us to transfer all of it. They want to leave as much as they can in conservation. So keep it as small as possible, and so we're working with the state and DEP and the town on, okay, what's feasible? How should we proceed with this? What achieves all the different variables here? And it's complex.
And Ells hopes to have a successful response to that survey as they plan for the future of the shooting range. One local group wants high school students to have later start times. Currently, Barnstable High School students begin their day at 7:30 in the morning. Interim Superintendent of Schools Bill Butler met with the Health Youth Task Force to discuss the issue last week.
Kristen Harmon, Assistant Superintendent Kristen Harmon, and I met with the Health Youth Task Force last Monday night at the high school. Probably 15 people from the task force. They have some compelling research that a later start time for high school students is beneficial not only to their performance in school, but also to their health generally. So they've convinced me that it's worth at least having a conversation about. So I'm going to recommend to the school committee chair that we put them on the agenda for the October school committee meeting, and they'll make a presentation, and we'll at least get the ball rolling toward a discussion. There are other considerations besides just the health consideration, although that's obviously important. There are costs involved in terms of transportation expense. We would probably have to go from a 3-tier bus system to a 2-tier system. That would add to our budget. And there are considerations for other students in the districts and their families in terms of, are their students going to have to start earlier? Does that mean they're going to get home earlier in the day? Does that present daycare issues? So I think it's a conversation the district needs to have. One district on the Cape has gone to a later start time, Nauset. Other districts throughout the state are looking at it, but it's a complicated issue.
Butler says while the Health Youth Task Force would like to see the change occur within the next school year, he thinks if approved, the process would likely take 2 or more years. Anyone looking for affordable dental care may want to head back to school. Cape Cod Community College Communications Director Michael Gross says the college offers many dental services at a discount.
A very, very comprehensive dental hygiene clinic here at the campus that is overseen by the whole group of dentists in the area and very highly trained dental hygienists who work with our students and our professional staff to provide care to people in our clinic itself in a very, very modest fee schedule. Everything from cleanings to x-rays. We teach young people how to brush their teeth and care for their teeth. We even give them toothbrushes. I think it's very important for parents to understand that amazing that you can get a full mouth set of x-rays for a young person, that if you find there's trouble, that's only $25.
Wow.
That's all. As a matter of fact, you can get a complete cleaning, the toothbrush, the exam, a fluoride treatment to protect your child aged 3 to 13 for $20.
Wow, that's amazing.
All. And there are so many other things that are available here. I think one of the things that will be coming up very soon, and we do this throughout the year, will be a free clinic for children ages 6 to 18 in which the dental techs will apply a sealant to the teeth. First, they'll be carefully examined by a dentist and by the 10 hygienists who are there, and they'll be cleaned very carefully, and then they'll be sealed against cavities. This can prevent up to 60% of the cavities, which, number one, we don't want teeth rot, to be kind of blunt, but more importantly, the cost of having to repair all that damage to families is terrible.
And you can learn more about the program by visiting capecod.edu. We'll be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. Tomorrow, we'll chat with Police Chief Paul McDonald. We'll talk with DPW Director Dan Santos. Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.